Welcome. Today is a historic day. I think that unfortunately, even though it makes a lot of people happy, be careful because there are those who don't want to see Madrid fans in the national team. And also the fact that some of them aren't going to the World Cup could actually be good for the club. So these players can do preseason next year. Of course, there will be others who go with other national teams, but at least the Spanish players won't have to be busy until July. And I understand that. Besides, this is a topic on this channel, and I completely understand the reasons on both sides. Many of you, because you're not Spanish, don't care about the Spanish national team. And there are other Madrid fans who are Spanish that don't even want to see the national team at all. Well, for reasons we all already know. In the same way, that I'm not involved in that fight for one reason. I've said it 1,000 times. It has to do with my childhood, with the fact that I'm Spanish, and with my preferences. And preferences can't be changed. Preferences and emotions, can't be changed, right? But anyway, I'm not going to get into that. I don't want to get into that. Given the kind of days I've been having, just imagine if I were to get into another fight, right? But it is something that deserves some reflection on our part. Important. And if there's anyone who's stuck on that idea, they hate us. I don't know. They hate us. They hate us. Yes, that there has been that the federation doesn't want Barca, the Barcelona implicated in the Negreira case, to fall. And that's why they don't send the documents to UEFA and everything else we're talking about too. That there has been corruption in the federation too. A lot of things. I already know all that. You don't need to tell me in the comment, but I already know all of this. And I've made it my main issue in many videos for many months and years since I started this channel, and especially since the Barcelona Negreira case came up. But be careful, this deserves some reflection and an attempt to reason. Why hasn't any Spanish football player from Real Madrid been called up to the Spanish national team? Can we just dig in and say, look, I wasn't going to take him because of whatever? No, let's try to be sensible about this. Do you guys think that any Spanish football player from Real Madrid really deserves to be on the national team? The other day I explained that in the case of Carvajal, he hasn't deserved to be on the national team this year because he has barely played any minutes and he's gotten injured again. He was already coming off an injury. But I see in other national teams that they respect that figure, the star, the legend, and they take him along. And here in Spain, that's not done. It hasn't been done. It wasn't done with Sergio Ramos. That's where we can start to consider that maybe with other footballers, it has been done in the past. We can get into that debate, but let's focus on what's happening now. I was saying, damn, I hope he takes Carvajal, even if it's just as part of the standby group he's bringing. And now I'll tell you, because that's where Gonzalo will be, so that if there's a withdrawal from the squad, they don't have to call someone else who's on vacation and just take him instead, right? But of course, the profile of that standby group is more about younger guys who come from the under-21 team and so on. No, it's not about Carvajal, but, well, beyond Carvajal, the poor guy, obviously Danny, with all the pain in our hearts, and surely also for the coach, didn't deserve it. Do you think Carreras deserved to be there? Do you guys think that, well, Brahim, and I criticized De La Fuente for this at the time, plays for Morocco while other Spanish players are with Spain? And now let's move on to the topic of Huijsen. Huijsen has unfortunately dropped in performance from one month to the next at Real Madrid. And that has coincided with a very good moment for the center-back from Atleti, Puvil, and a very good moment for Eric Garcia. Even if we don't like him, even if years ago he seemed like a total flop to us, he's a guy who, just like Ferran, just like other Barca players, he has reached his best level precisely because he had a coach. And mind you, I want nothing to do with those who pay off referees, but he had a coach who gave him confidence and brought out the best in him, which is exactly what Real Madrid has been missing this year. Not with one player or two, but with all his players. So the kid. This is also a reflection of how the year has gone for the clubs, because if Madrid had had a good season, I assure you that everyone would have looked much better. And today we would have several Spanish Real Madrid players playing for the Spanish national team. But for sure, but really, look, Lenormand has also been left out. And this Puvel guy and Eric have gone, but that's because they finished the season very well and because they've had a very consistent and even improving performance, right? So, well, we have to we have to reconsider the idea of not so much as Enrique Riquelme, the candidate for the presidency of Real Madrid, says now, making Madrid more Spanish and so on. I don't know. It's not a matter of making Real Madrid more Spanish, by the way, which they're finishing up now, saying that he doesn't know the club members if he says that and so on. There was a push to make Real Madrid more Spanish in the summer of 2013, which was Isco, Mendy, and a few others. And I think it wasn't completed because there were other players that Madrid could have signed, and in the end, they didn't. And back then, Florentino was applauded for that. You know, Isco, damn, an emerging talent and all that. Isco, come on, and Mendy, the other one. And, well, we also did it with Asensio back in the day and so on. I don't see it that way. I don't think it's that bad. Madrid doesn't need to be more or less Spanish. Top talent should go to Madrid and promote youth academy players who are mostly Spanish. And man, if a talent like John Martin comes up, this guy from Real Sociedad, who's going to be in the standby group, by the way, to complete the national team squad, and you have to go after that guy because he's really good. Well, you have to go after him. Though he has different ideas. Mourinho, by the way, was being discussed. Miguel Serrano said it would be Bastoni, and he had already convinced him. But anyway, just to wrap up the information topic, I know a lot of you find this subject boring, but it's one of the main topics of the day. Victor Munoz. He's still partly owned by Real Madrid, and he's going to be fully part of Real Madrid. Plus, he was trained in our youth academy. Yes, he's there, and he's kind of the representation. Not sure, but I saw someone compare this to Barca fans who used to claim things for themselves. They included Villa, who hadn't played for Barca yet and was signing that summer as if he was already a Barca player from the 2010 World Cup winning squad. Man, it's not the same because Villa hadn't played for Barca yet, but Victor Munoz has already played a Clásico, no less, at Montjuic last year. He has been one of the best wingers in this league at Osasuna. And although I think he has some physical problem, he could still make it just fine. And that's why he was called up to the national team. And he could be, well, our representative. Because honestly, I believe that by the time the World Cup starts, Madrid will have activated that clause, if they do, which I expect. And he'll officially be a Real Madrid player again. So when they say not a single one from Real Madrid, well, look, at least here there is, even if many people don't care. I do. Honestly, well, and Gonzalo, as I said, in that standby group, who knows? Maybe I don't like Borja Iglesias. I don't like him as Spain's number 9, but I do like Ferran Torres a little more. Ferran Torres, because I think he's a guy who has improved a lot, just like we said about Eric Garcia. And in case either of them fails, maybe, well, there's Gonzalo, maybe. I said last summer when Gonzalo was the top scorer at the Club World Cup, I said next year Gonzalo is going to be at the World Cup and at the World Cup for national teams. And I'm close. I don't want anyone to get injured, but I would love for Gonzalo to finally make it onto that list. Although, well, of course, it's very difficult. Speaking of Gonzalo, yesterday we were talking about that conciliatory message from Arbeloa to Mbappe and to many players. He has sent many messages to players, including Fran Garcia, but I wanted to highlight Gonzalo's because it sparked a lot of discussion. Thank you very much to you, Gon, because I had written Gonzalo before. Coach Arbeloa, thank you very much for everything you have taught me during these last years. It's been an honor serving under your command in both the youth academy and the first team. I wish you and all your staff the best. You deserve it, of course, not just these months, but also the previous years, right? And Arbeloa says here, because every message has its own interpretation. Thank you very much, Gon. You have been much more than a player to me. I wish I had been fairer with you. Show everyone what you're worth. Everyone keeps asking, why haven't you been? They haven't let you. Look, the other day, Arbeloa said, I have put Real Madrid ahead of myself. And it's clear that even though he put Pitar in because there weren't any midfielders with Thiago Pitar's profile, and there he gave it his all. Arbeloa probably wanted to play Gonzalo in many more matches. Of course, that's the striker's position. We all know what happens there, right? Vinicius, Mbappe, and all the fuss. And it feels like indeed, but well, we're not reinventing the wheel here. At Real Madrid, the coach's position is really tough because there are things you simply can't do. You can't do, and it's that sad, but that's how it is. Yeah, let's see if Mourinho finally comes back and what he does, and if he has the courage, which he certainly is expected to have, and he definitely does, to take on certain players. By the way, they're talking about it. Látigo Serrano mentioned it this morning, and I brought it up the other day, besides other names like Jacobo Ramon, who might recover. I think he'll recover for Real Madrid this year, but I believe they'll keep him there another year. In terms of how maybe bringing up Joan Martinez, although he might not be fully ready, or Guado, this kid who's also really good from the youth academy. And well, let's see if they renew Bueno. By now, we should already know about Rudiger's extension and all that. That Mourinho's target would be Bastoni, and that he has already convinced him, says Miguel Serrano. He's the one the Portuguese coach has chosen to lead Real Madrid's defense. Remember that not long ago, by the way, just a quick aside, there was a lot of talk that he could join Barca. The player has already said yes to the coach, who views him as the ideal mentor for Huijsen and another young centre-back possibly joining this summer. Negotiations with Inter will intensify after the elections because, of course, with the elections, it wasn't possible to announce Mourinho today because today Mourinho was going to be announced. But the elections mean that this will happen next week or in 2 weeks, right? Although Madrid can already sign Mourinho, Florentino Perez can do it, except for signing someone for, say, over 100 million euros. Real Madrid can do things, and it could be announcing Mourinho with a release clause of, well, 7 million, right? They could do it perfectly. But anyway, Bastoni, tell me what you think. My son was telling me it's just that I don't really like him because of his character and the way he is. And I said, look, and I told him, son, look, a center back has to be a bit of a character. The center back, well, he's a guy, he's a tough looking guy, difficult and all that. I don't think that's entirely bad. He's a great center back for sure. What works against him is the fact that, well, you know, he's Italian and Italy is not doing so well at the national team level and all that. But when it comes to clubs, man, they were finalists in the Champions League last year. A top center back, one of the best in Europe, without a doubt. Let's listen to Enrique Riquelme, who spoke this morning at the opening of his office next to the Bernabeu. It's where the famous cafe brewery Bola Volapia used to be. By the way, I passed by there recently, and damn, it's not there anymore. Well, look, he took advantage of the place and opened the office. He held the opening ceremony at 11 in the morning and said these things. Let's go over them. Come on.
Yesterday, they already informed us that we are officially candidates for the presidency of Real Madrid, and the future has to be based on the members. Club members are definitely among the most overlooked.
By the way, I'll tell you about that now.
As I said in an interview, and will keep repeating, what are the benefits of being a Real Madrid member? Apart from being a great privilege and an honor, and apart from a discount, of course, but then a 15% discount on jerseys. And if you have a season ticket, well, you're privileged.
He really emphasizes those things on the little that the member has, on the little that Real Madrid gives to the member, just some priority in something and not much else, right? He's been repeating this for 2 days.
After that, what is there? Nothing. You get the seats after a 1.7 billion renovation, even closer to the other one.
1.7 billion, as far as I know, it's 1.3 and something. The renovation of the Bernabeu, he would have to explain why he gives that figure of 1.7 billion. Because it's 1.3 and something. It was actually budgeted for less, but they needed 2 more loans. Florentino explained it the other day, right? At the press conference where Florentino, I think he wasn't completely right there. He did give the correct figure, but he accused the media of saying it was 1.3 billion. And in the end, it really was 1.3 billion. But it's true that for a while, some media outlets were playing with that figure and stirring things up, saying that the price of the Bernabeu had been inflated in the end and that it wasn't what had been promised to the members. And yet I think Real Madrid was constantly informing the members and the fans about how much the stadium was going to cost and about the new loans that were being requested. I think Madrid has been transparent in that regard, honestly. But anyway, Enrique Riquelme should explain where that 1.7 billion figure comes from and why he talks about 1.7 billion when it's actually 1.3 billion and change.
Smaller. The members section, the season ticket holders, same bar, same bathrooms.
He's talking about the smaller seats, the same bar. I understand that's where they serve you food and all that, same bathrooms. It's not exactly like that, I think. As a member who goes to the Bernabeu, as a Bernabeu user, I think the bathrooms are a little better, but not something spectacularly better. The bars where they serve you sandwiches and all that have improved quite a bit. Without being anything I was expecting, maybe. It's true, something similar to American stadiums where, well, they've put a little more effort into that. It's actually nicer. The interior of those facilities is more attractive, but anyway, I'll get to what Frank Carrillo said the other day. We're not America. This is an American sport. This is something else. People come to watch soccer. In the United States, people go for something else. They go for the experience too, so they focus a bit more on that. But, well, for me, he's left it pretty decent at the Bernabeu, but Florentino Perez, but, well, he's focusing the debate on that. And I think he has a justification, which is, well, to actually generate something negative, because if not, how else is Riquelme going to attack Florentino Perez, right?
You have to leave 10 minutes before the end of the first half to be able to buy yourself a drink and a sandwich. That's the renovation after spending 1.7 billion, right? We know that there's also a big part related to sports, where we already said during the pre-campaign that we would run and that we had a tremendously strong and exciting project for Madrid fans. We have it, but don't ask me to talk about everything on the first day, because we can only see so much. If we're lucky, as Madrid fans, one Real Madrid player will get called up, while our main rivals are going to fill up this entire list.
He's referring to the national team.
Let's hope that if the members decide and that's what they choose, we'll be able to change that part. And we're going to bring great players and great stars back to the Spanish national team who can make us feel proud. Some Spaniards in that call-up also here on the field. All the steps have already been completed.
Remember one thing, even though many of you who see me here, who live in other countries, are from other countries, and maybe you don't care about Spain or this, I remind you of something. There are members who are foreigners too. They don't have to be Spanish, but most of the members are Spanish. Let's say the majority of the members are from here, and the ones who vote are the members. That's why they emphasize this.
What we're asking for, our work is done up to this point. Now what we're asking for is that debate. We should be able to debate as many times as necessary between two projects in a healthy and respectful way. It's not a project, as I've said, that's anti-anyone or against anyone. It's a project in favor of Real Madrid. And we hope that both of us can debate and take ideas from each other to build the best possible Real Madrid for the coming years. Yesterday,
well, I think that by focusing so much on club members and the very few perks Madrid gives them, and it gives a 15% discount on the jerseys. They wish you happy birthday, Merry Christmas, and more. I think, and something tells me, that he's preparing something big. And he should, because in the end, it's the members who vote. For the member, but something tangible, something club members can actually enjoy and say, damn, this is better than what they were offering me before. Because, well, my intuition tells me, and the fact is, damn, if you don't go to the members and offer them attractive things, you won't win this election at all. And I don't think he's going to win them. I think, look, there was a poll they did on El Chiringuito, and it left him around halfway. I don't know if they interviewed 100 people, but I think it was roughly 80-20, which is what I think it's going to be. Or he takes this straight to the club members, like, look, this is something tangible for you to enjoy. And at the same time, he presents names, which I'll talk about in the next video. He presents big names, really big names for the sporting project. Or is that very difficult? In that case, there might be more or less of a contest, but if not, it's going to be very difficult for him. Well, let me know in the comments what you think. Have a great day. Give it a like if you enjoyed this video. Subscribe to the channel, comment, share, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.